Accatone, Pier Paolo Pasolini's debut feature in 1961, is the first film that is a part of Pasolini 101. The film was shot in the vein of neorealism that Italy had become known for in the 1940s and 1950s, with the films of Rossellini and De Sica not only had elevated the country's film status, but also created a genre of art that was damning in the views of poverty and war that was highly influential to the rest of the world. By the 1950s, Italy was seen as second in the film industry behind the USA's dominant Hollywood machine. Federico Fellini, who was seen as Italy's top director at the time, had already made La Strada in the neorealist vein, which was a powerful tale of domestic violence as well as just a very powerful film. And he was also beginning to work on the Knights of Cabiria when he recruited a semi-known already with a penchant for creating controversy, Pier Paolo Pasolini. Pasolini at this time was mainly known as an obscure writer of poetry, which landed him in hot water with the Italian authorities and intellectuals at the time because of his notions of blasphemy and homosexuality. After Pasolini had helped Fellini with La Dolce Vita, Fellini had promised Pasolini that he would finance his first debut feature as a thanks for his hard work on Fellini's previous efforts. With a subject of pure speculation, Fellini had basically cut off Pasolini because of this film, and we don't really know as to why. It may be that because the film is steeped in such neo-realist genre tropes such as like the environment and the scathing poverty and really the critique of Rome and Italy at the time. It was something that Fellini had satirized in La Dolce Vita, but we simply still don't know the reason why that the partnership had came to an end so abruptly. And what is Accatone? Well, it leads with Vittorio, or Akattone as he is called by the circle of people he surrounds himself with. Akattone is another word for beggar in Italian and would imply that Vittorio is not a powerful criminal that has the world in his grasp, but rather a lowly bottom-feeding degenerate that uses crime to scrape by in life. This crime feature in his life becomes complicated, as his only girl that still walks the streets for him is injured, but since he is so broke, she makes her walk anyway. And as his life is controlled by other gang members, they assault her and leave her for dead in the city's wasteland. Since she is arrested for prostitution, Vittorio cannot get her out, nor does he seem to care about the situation, as he sets his eyes on another girl. The girl, Stella, whom Vittorio is absolutely entranced by, agrees to work with him, albeit naively. Vittorio eventually gets jealous of the fact that she will eventually have to be with other men and has a breakdown on the beach where he realizes that he does not want this for her, so he decides to work and lead a normal life again. The final act of the film leads to Vittorio's breakdown in a horrifying dream sequence that reinforces the notion that he will not be anything else but a shameless Akattone. When the dream should have reinforced his way to lead a normal life, he doesn't have the tools because he is left with this branding that he is a beggar, thief, and a pimp. And was it the nature of life that he always aspired it to be, or was it the environment that gave him the sway to become who he was? Pasolini leaves this question unanswered, and rightfully so. We see the evolution of a downfall where nothing goes right, and even hope is only a means to an end where nothing is answered for Akattone. But in this, we find that the only answer for his soul is to be cut off from the world that feeds into his afflictions. A pessimistic view? Most certainly, but for one Akattone, it is this end that signals his one and only consolation. Because this film is in the neo-realist tradition, one would suspect that the environment around Akattone would be the leading cause of the disruption of his moral center. But Pasolini leaves the cause of Vittorio's descent into crime unknowable. The only thing that we know from Vittorio's past are like his ex-wife and his pissed-off in-laws, so it seems like there is an attempt to have a decent life, or it was a circle that maybe he pimped his wife out and left her to fend for himself after. It's never fully explained. It was probably that Akattone knew that this circle had almost fully enclosed or had closed at that point, and that's why that he himself had this breakdown and became disillusioned with all of his camaraderie, all of his friends. Everything around him seemed to sort of disintegrate. Of course, all the actors do a great job, but Franco Chitti as Akattone is the way that this film works so well. His torment, his anguish, his bravado, all were believable to a point of fervor. And you can actually believe that this is just a shameless, hopeless man. It is no surprise that Pasolini had based Accattone's character on Chitti, who was a well-known troublemaker in Italy at the time, and was also Sergio Chitti's brother, the screenwriter for the film. It is also known in Mamma Roma that Franco Chitti also got arrested on the time of the set, and was also known in this very demonic way, which would be funny as Pasolini would go on to cast Franco Chitti in other roles, but he is considered like this very devilish presence in almost all of them. It's also a shame that Chitti did not go on to work with other directors besides, as well known as Pasolini, because he gave such a great performance here that it makes me wonder why he didn't have further success, and maybe it was his limited knowledge of English that may have prevented that. But in a sense, Akattone is definitely worth watching, and definitely one of the great films of the 1960s. This is Films and Beyond. Thanks for watching.